What's going on, beautiful people? This tank here was set up by me and fish shop Matt like 6 months ago, and at the time it was perfect for the fish. But since then, Chunks, who I don't normally name fish, but he's just so cool that it was just a little nickname because he was so big. He's grown so fast. There's not enough swim room from the tank now because it's so hardscape heavy. So today I'm gonna strip it down and do something way more realistic for him, more swim space, and just something that the fish that have all actually got bigger can enjoy it a little bit more. So here is the current situation. We've got 5 electric blue Aquaria there, some looking far more glamorous than others. Like this one is like a prize one, but we love them all. We love them all. A little bit rough, some of them, but you know, it's just genetics. And then if we come over to this side, here is Chunks just lurking in the dark. Now you can get as close as you want and you can like even touch the glass and everything. He is not bothered. Oh, there's hoplo catfish as well. And we've also got some larger tetras. There's some lemons there. And then there's some red eyes at the back as well. They sort of keep a distance from Chunks. But to be honest, I don't think he cares about them that much. So today's video is proudly sponsored once again by API and Aquarian. Now this isn't going to be a hard sell, guys. You know I've been using this stuff for a very, very long time. I use it in all of my builds. Everything you can see on the table we're going to be using today. We'll start off with the root tabs, obviously, purify the water. We're going to test the water as well to make sure everything's okay for our fish. We'll add fertilizers, and then we will feed the fish at the end as well. So stick around. I'll go into a bit more detail as I use each product, as I always have done. So yeah, thank you API and Aquarian for sponsoring this video once again for us. Now there is a massive piece of wood hardscape in here, and it comes all the way at the top, look, and it's got all the plants growing up it, but it takes up a good 2/3 of the aquarium. Now I knew that the fish would grow. I did not know that they'd grow so fast. Now when I first got Chunks, he was the size of these Aquaria here, and like in the same time they've been in this tank, he's just got absolutely beastie. If he swims to the side, we can actually, let me just flick the water. There we go, now we're getting a better sense of his size. The biggest fish other than my discus before that I've ever owned. So I've got to break the whole tank down, and I don't want to rush the process. Now the smaller fish can go in my holding tanks. So yeah, up on the fish wall here, look, lots of tanks. I can shuffle some stuff about and they can go in absolutely fine. But I do feel like Chunks is just too big to go in one of those 45cm tanks. It's like a foot, a little sponge filter. I feel like it might be a bit dangerous to him. So I don't want to put him in there because I want to take my time with the build as well and get it right. So next to his tank is this one here, which I've not featured on any videos because it's not very interesting. It was purely just for me to plant Echinodoris in and just see how they grew underwater versus their immersed state, because they're grown out of water. So when they arrive, they look completely different to what they do now. This is a good example actually. All these leaves that you can see here coming out, all the tall ones, completely different to what was down at the bottom when I first got them. So a really great example actually. Underwater leaves need to get bigger so they can take on more like light and more CO2 in the water. So they just get much larger, and to be honest, perfect, because these are the sort of plants that are going to be in Aquaria's natural environment, which means I can use them in the new scape. Not all of them, because that is a lot, but yeah, should look really good. Now, we'll be making sure with this one that I don't put crazy amounts of hardscape in. I want to keep the hardscape to the back as well, and then I can use plants and rocks and gravel and things just to create the more detail, make it more sort of plant focused, that sort of is the scape, but that will leave tons of swim room, but also lots of hiding spaces if any of the fish aren't feeling comfortable and that sort of thing. I'm thinking of wood sort of coming in from the sides, you know what I mean? But first of all, before that, I've got to get this all out, get it cleaned and get it ready to go, which is not going to be an easy job at all. It's probably going to take me all day. Key components when cleaning out a tank: lots of buckets, and that's only like a quarter of all my buckets, and a wet dry vac, so that you can just suck up anything right at the end. It just saves so much time with like fiddling in the tank, trying to scoop stuff out. Absolutely brilliant purchase, not even that expensive either. Right, I've taken out all of the rock. There's a lot of rock there, a lot of dragonstone. Chucked away any of the sort of old plants. I've kept quite a few. I've put some over in this tank for the time being. There's absolutely tons of the plants that grow out the water, just all looping over the top here. There's loads of extra Echinodoris on the top, and again, more plants that come out the top. The next job though is to get this piece of wood out. It was heavy going in when it wasn't waterlogged, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a bit of a mission. Oh, what a day. I've done absolutely loads. The tank is crystal clean. Crystal clean? The tank's clean. The fish are all sorted. The electric blue Acara are in this tank. All the tetra are in this one here. Don't get me wrong, these tanks don't look pretty, but they're, you know, fully cycled, full like Malm system, and yeah, there's so much biomedia in terms of like substance in a tank that it's more than capable of handling the fish that we've got in there. These guys, because they've been moved, have been doing a little bit of lip locking, a bit of breeding action going on as well. That'd be amazing if I could move them out of there and then some babies sort of pop up. And then down here, look, I've completely cleaned all the sand as well. Really good grading, look at that. It's got like a real natural vibe to it. So that's gonna be my decorative layer. I'm gonna need some nutrients underneath because I want quite a lot of plants in this tank as well. Shocking, I know, but tomorrow the fun starts. And today is the next day. So let me tell you where we're at, what the tank is, what I've done with the filter, how Chunks is doing, because he settled straight into his new tank. Not his new tank, his temporary tank. So the tank is from Aquariums for Life. It's 120 centimeters long, 50 high, 60 back, which is like 360 litres, or it's about 100 US gallons, so it's a good size. Normally with a 4 foot, you don't get that much literage, but because it's so deep, it means you've just got that extra bonus volume. Now the filter, I unhooked from there and I've placed into this tank, so it just keeps it running. Nothing needs to be rushed. All the bacteria stay good. And here is Chunks doing great. Yesterday when I left, he was hiding at the back, not massively happy. But as you can see, he's his confident self. He's probably thinking, where are all my friends though? You'll be with them soon, buddy. Now, as with any of my aquariums, especially when they're gonna be planted, I always put down a nutrient base, cap it off, and then build my like hardscape all on top of that. I say always, not always at all, but most of the time, I think it's brilliant to get a nice layer of nutrients, cap it off, and then you're absolutely sorted for wherever you want to put any plants. So these three components are the key components to any of my substrate systems. Like even in the tank you can see behind, I'm not covering up all the reflections, but I'm just quickly showing you, look at how well it's growing. And this is after I've trimmed it all back as well, and it's all growing beautiful again. Underneath this sand is exactly what you're seeing here. Now the three components are optimal. That was what I found to be optimal anyway. We've basically got the NutriBase that goes in the bottom. This is perfect for startup. There's beneficial bacteria, dormant beneficial bacteria. So, you know, once it all starts going, it works really well. Gets the tank sort of settled very quickly. I add the premium aquatic soil, compost soil, and this just bolsters up extra nutrients because there's a lot of plants, so I want to make sure I'm covering everything. And then for like long-term and replenishable results, root tabs, API root tabs are brilliant for this. I have used them for like 5 years now, something like that. Even before I was sponsored, I used all the API stuff and it works so well. Now, not everyone's got enough cash to just start getting tons and tons of things. So if you can only afford sand, I would suggest getting just the root tabs if that's all you can afford. But if you can just find the extra cash to find these extra components, trust me, I mean, you're not going to be disappointed. It's the same as what I've set up here in the triple tanks. I mean, this one's looking ridiculously overgrown. I'm kind of leaving it at the moment. There's an absolute ton of babies swimming around. So I just happily given them all these hiding places. It does need a little bit of a cutback, but look at the plant growth, it's nuts. The rainbow fish tank, this is the one I was talking about where I don't always put the substrate system in first because it's just a thin dusting of sand. But that back section where you can see all those amazing plants growing is the same system I'm talking about now. So yeah, all three components for optimal. If not, if you can't get hold of NutriBase in your country, then find some aquatic soil, which is just pond soil, and get yourself some API root tabs. We know they can be everywhere. Put this under the sand with a bit of gravel, stick these on top, and you're onto a winner. If you can find NutriBase, I strongly suggest you get a bag. So let's put the NutriBase in first. Oh, in case you're wondering, I've got a light in the background section there. This light at the top is the Superfish Scaper light. It's so good. I basically use it on everything. Grows plants so well, it's bright enough, and it looks smart as well, doesn't it? I mean, I should have probably wiped it first, but yeah, I've got the same light down the back there, just adding as a sort of up light. Now the idea is that obviously with the plants in the background, you're just going to see it sort of just gently behind it, and it'll give a really nice sort of depth perception, like a perception of a river, I guess. Just trying something a little bit different. This one's black. I quite often use black, but yeah, so we'll just do something different next to it. Should look pretty good. If it doesn't, I can always add a black background because it's just, you just get the film and you can tape it over the end. So I'm gonna need the whole bag, to be honest, because this is a large tank or large surface area. And then just pour it in. I poured most of that to the back, but now I'll just sort of spread it evenly. I mean, when you look at it, it does look like play sand mixed with gravel, but there is even a smell of some kind of nutrient. So there's the odd bit of soil in there as well, so that's adding to it. I can't fully explain it to you. All I know is that I use it and get great results. I'm not very scientific, but I just go by what works. And then I sort of keep it clearer in the foreground because I don't like seeing all the mess in the layering, and that'll keep it nice and tidy when the decorative sand goes on top. Now on top of that, we can sprinkle some of our aquatic pond soil. Now we do not need a huge amount of this, just like a dusting over everything. And as far as I can tell, aquatic pond soil is like regular compost, but they just sort of float off most of the organics. And then what you're left with is the stuff that sinks, which means it's obviously less organic. Obviously, you're going to get some bits in there, but some bits are good actually. And the reason they're good is as they break down underneath the sand capping, they actually generate CO2. Now, it's not going to be to the levels of injected CO2, but any CO2 is good CO2, right? It brings down the pH and just means that all the plants will just grow much better. So if you've got like a pH of, I don't know, 7 or 7.5, this is the sort of thing that can bring it down to below 7, especially if you add in some bogwood and things like that as well. Now, the pond soil I've got has actually got bits of gravel and chunks of things and stuff all in amongst it. If yours is completely clean, then yeah, add a little bit of gravel in as well. Just find it helps with sort of like water migration and things like that. Next up is the root tabs. Now, obviously they're in solid form. This is so that if you're planting them into a tank that's already established, they'll stay, you know, in the same shape, and you can push them into the substrate. But in this instance, when we're starting off like this, I like to take them all out, grind them up and sprinkle them really evenly. Yeah, this way I just feel like they sort of go a lot further. So yeah, that is my basic substrate system. Like I say, I do that for everything. And then over the top, you can cap it with whatever you like. Personally, I'd always choose a sand. If you want more of a gravel look, put that on top of the sand, but it can be any sand, any color, whatever you want. And as prepared yesterday, I've got all of this stuff to go on top, although I don't think that's gonna be thick enough for capping on the whole area. So I'm just gonna add something else down first in the background section, and then this can go on top of that. So down here, I've got some old sort of sands, gravels, a little bit of aqua soil in there. That's mostly sand, a little bit of soil in that as well. It's basically the same stuff as what I've laid in, just mixed up with gravels and sands from previous setups. I always save it because I know it's gonna come in handy, for instance, right now. And if you want, you can even just put aqua soil in with it as well, if you can't get hold of, say, for instance, the aquatic compost. But aqua soil is way, way more expensive, like 10 times as expensive. So this is just a cheaper way of doing it that works really well. Plus you get the CO2 breakdown as well. So substrate system done, not the most exciting thing, but I think it's important. Quite a lot of you might have seen that before, but for the new viewers watching, I think they need to understand that without the nutrients underneath, you're not going to get the sort of plant growth that you can see in all my other tanks. So I need to make sure that people are aware of that. Also, some of you have already asked, why do I not put aqua soil in bags anymore and then stick it underneath? There's nothing wrong with it. It works really well. It's just that I prefer using the pond soil method. Just feel it gives a little bit more punch. I don't need to put that in bags because it doesn't sort of float to the surface. Aqua soil, if it's disturbed underneath the sand, eventually it just sort of comes up and then it just spoils the look. If a little bit of that soil comes up, it doesn't really matter. It might look a little bit molmy, but to me, that looks kind of natural and I don't mind that at all. It doesn't hurt the water column. So yeah, this is just my favorite way of doing it and I know it works well. Okay, hardscape time. This is the fun bit. Now, I'm gonna take my time with this, got a plan in mind. We've got a big pile of wood here. Some of it's quite chunky though, so I'm looking for more sort of thinner stuff to go in more in the background area. And outside, so that's the monster piece of wood I just took out. I've got these thinner ones here that are great. The problem is they leach a ton of tannins. They are a hardwood, but you know, maybe that'll be realistic. Okay, here's the options. I was thinking this one, but it's way too big. It's not what I'm going for at all. I've got these 4 pieces here. I've got a couple more outside. These are the ones that did release a lot of tannins previously, but you know, they've been in that tank that they released in for a long time, and I think they'll be absolutely fine now. Plus, I mean, a little bit of tannin is actually, you know, South American cichlid. It's actually quite perfect, but there's much more the vibe I'm going for with the straight stuff, because I want crisscross, like it's sort of falling in. So this is the kind of thing I'm thinking, but like that is very central. The focal point is very central. Now, I'm not one to worry too much about rule of thirds and stuff like that, but when it is a dead circle in the center of the tank, it can look a little bit odd, and I'm going for sort of a natural vibe. So I need to shift it all along a little bit. I need to get some rocks in as well. I've got some really nice black sort of, I don't even know what they are. I think it's rhino stone, but that will look really, really good in there. I got them from Aquarium Gardens a long time ago now, several years ago, so it'd be good to use them again. There we go, loving that so far. Hopefully you can see what I've gone for. It's like an intersection in the river where everything's just got locked and clumped in. We're not done, I need loads more detail, but I think that's a strong sort of starting shape. If you can get your starting shape sorted, the rest should look really good as well. I've left tons of swim room that you can go all the way around easily. There's space at the back there for planting. Those shaded areas, as the plants grow taller, will become brighter, and that's the same thing on this side as well. Before I go any further though, I need to make sure this is all locked down, so I'm going to glue it all to the rocks. So the method I use for gluing is paper towel, like this, and then super glue, like the liquid form. It soaks into this, and whatever it's touching goes like rock, and just it's the most secure and fastest method as well. Now as it reacts, it gives off these sort of fumes. Do not breathe them in, really bad for you. There we go, that is everything completely locked down. So there's, if you come here, look, you can see behind the curtain, there's points everywhere. I've got the little bits of paper towel and the glue, and the whole thing is solid. Now that's important for 2 reasons. The obvious one, it won't float up now. But the other thing is that when you're now doing maintenance, you need to like scrub off any of the wood or anything like that. You won't disturb it, it won't fall apart, it'll keep that shape, which I'm actually really loving the more I look at it. I want more detail though, I want lots more pebbles. I want it to look like literally a fast flowing river has just chucked everything up against this side. So I want tons of detail in the foreground, maybe some smaller twigs and things like that. But first of all, let's get those stones in, just get it looking real. I mean, it is real, but you know, like, you know what I mean? And for me, that just absolutely transforms the whole thing, doesn't it? Like, it's just a mixture and the grading of the different sizes of gravels. So when you're in the more dense area where it's all got caught up more, obviously there's a thicker layer in. And then as you sort of get out further into the riverbed, if you like, it gets a little bit more sparse, and yeah, it creates a real natural look. The idea is, you see, in this area, I don't want to have too many plants because this is like the viewing gallery, if you like. Plants can be sort of around the edges and the back. There will be some, obviously, but not like the majority of them. There'll be more like a curtain behind is what I'm thinking. And for any paper towel that's on show, like that piece there, I've just put a little bit of glue next to it, and then I can put a stone on top of that and keep it in place hidden. Now that won't dry instantly, but you know, not to worry, given it time, it will. It'll be tacky within a few hours, so that's all we need for now. Right, I think that's looking really good. I don't actually want to add any more. I was thinking about adding a few more sticks and stuff, but like I say, I want lots of swim room all around it. Obviously the plants will be all around it, but the fish can swim all through that, can't they? So yeah, let's get on with some planting. So up in my planted tanks here, I've got some really nice area colon, and in this one and in this one as well. So I want to use those because I actually put them in here temporary when I took them out of another scape. So I can now reuse them again, which is what the idea was. The background plants, the dwarf sage and that kind of thing, that was meant to stay. But anything in the foreground was supposed to be whip it out and reuse it. Actually, that Hygrophila polysperma might be a good shout for a little section as well. The thing I like about this plant is that it does stay like pretty much like that. It gets larger, but it doesn't seem to spread about everywhere. So we'll keep that detail foreground as we can see it. I do want to put a couple of feature plants in there. I put a little bit of Liliopsis, and there's also Nymphoides Taiwan, a tiny little one that will just get bigger and bigger. But now I want to start planting the Echinodorus, the stars of the show. And one of them that I saved from the previous setup is this one, that comes right out the top of the tank. So I'm going to put that in one of the sides, and that way I can use the framework of the wood to sort of rest it against so it doesn't just fall over. Nice, just a little touch. I mean, it looks like some of the leaves are sort of drying out on the tip, but you do quite often get that, unless you're in a tropical environment. But new ones keep growing, of course. I quite like the stalkiness of it. Yeah, great little touch. Right, let's keep going with Echinodorus now. I've got so many varieties in here. I'll try and label the ones I can. I don't know what that noise was. I've been planting for quite a long time now. There's some big leaf plants in here, and to be honest, I just want to fill it up like this and see what it looks like. Thinking of adding some Vallisneria as well in the background just for some shooty off bits. I'm not sure yet. Let me fill it up, see how they're sitting. It might need a little bit of finer detail because there's a lot of big leaves. But first, I just got to see. Oh, you might have noticed as well that I was planting there with my hands. I find that planting Echinodorus, because it's such a thick sort of root system, planting with your hands is so much easier like you would in your garden. Tweezers are just, yeah, it doesn't work. Just get your thumb in there, make a hole, stick it in, pack it in like you would a normal plant. Now I'm going to fill this up very slowly. I don't want to disturb all that substrate system. It'll take a while, but it's worth it. Right, it's now the next day. The tank is looking really good actually, but there's a few additions I want to make. It's not quite there. I like what we've done so far. I just need to add a little bit more to it. Yeah, so the structure looks fantastic. I'm loving the thick leaves. I just think we need a couple of little ferns just dotted in amongst it. Not enough to cover it up though. I'd like to put some more greenery in the foreground a little bit as well, but in between where all the rocks are, I still want those all on show. Oh yeah, I've switched across the filter. That's all running as well. And when I filled the whole thing up, I filled it from my water butt. So this here is my water butt, and when I fill it up, it comes straight from the tap. So I have to add in Aqua Essential. Now this removes ammonia, nitrite and nitrate when you use it at higher levels, if you've got like a tank that's suffering from some of those values being raised. But in the smaller amounts, which is what I've used it for, it removes chlorine, chloramines and heavy metals from the tap water. So as I'm filling this up, I just stick a little bit in here, just a tiny amount to be honest, which means that this bottle will actually last me for ages, even with the amount of water changes I do in this whole place. Yeah, Aqua Essential, great stuff, great value for money, and it just works really well. And then after I was looking at this tank, I came across to check on Chunks. Now Chunks seems to be doing fine. He just seems a little bit down in the dumps. So the first thing I did was test his water. So yeah, we've got the freshwater master test kit. Now I've just checked the nitrite and ammonia on that water in the tank that he's in, because there hasn't been any livestock in there. There's just been the plants. But as you can see, it's been running for a while, to be honest, about a month. and there's no signs of anything in that water. So he's all good in that respect. But bless him, he just seems a little bit lonely in here. So I'm just gonna add in the electric blue Aquarias so he's got some company. He's not used to be on his own. There we go. I've moved the electric blue Aquaria across, and already Chunk seems a little bit more perky. Yeah, I didn't really like him being in this tank, to be honest. It's too small for that many Aquaria. A little bit of lip blocking going on. And yeah, I'm more comfortable with him in the bigger tank. You know, plus this gives me more time to get this one right and doesn't mean I have to move any fish over, you know, anytime soon. I can just take my time with it. The Tetra though, they're absolutely fine in here. Not an issue at all. Right, first thing, I want to get some ferns in. I'm thinking this little point here and also that section there. Yeah, I think that's nice. So it's just added a little bit of focal points to an otherwise sort of barren area. Now I do definitely want to add in the Vallisneria at the back now and just get that sort of canopy looping over the top as well. I think that'll look great. Okay, that is looking so much better. Much more what I was sort of picturing in my mind with the Vallisneria just looping over like that. I love everything so far, apart from this middle section. I still feel like it needs something, but I don't want any more sort of decoration on the wood. I want something focal in the middle, and I've just pulled out of one of my other tanks this absolutely amazing tiger lotus. I think that's gonna look great in that section. There's some longer pieces that will look great as well coming up. But I've got to try it. I think it'll look great. Oh yes, I think that's what it was missing. That beautiful focal point in the middle. Now what this plant tries to do is send up like a lily to the surface, and then it sort of stops growing on the bottom. So you have to be aware of that. I'll show you actually. So yeah, here on the 8 foot is a perfect example. You see this lily reaching for the surface, trace it down. It's the same one that I've just put in the background there, and there's loads of large leaves. They look gorgeous. So it's the same light as well on this tank as on the new one for the Aquaria. So I know it's going to work well, and I just know how fantastic it can look. But yeah, definitely the right call. Look at that. Like your eyes are drawn to it, but it's not like taken away from everything else. Oh, fish are going to love this. So I've just given the filter a really good clean, and you can see it's misted everything up. And the filter, by the way, is the Oase Biomaster 850. And then what I'm going to do now is add in some API AquaClear. This stuff is magic. It basically just binds together all the dust. So what you're seeing, you know, in that murkiness is just like dust particles in the water column, microscopic. If you add this, what it does is it makes them sort of attracted to each other. They clump together to be bigger. They go into the filter, and then the filter just picks them up. Literally, it goes like there's no water in the tank at all. And you really do not need a lot of this stuff at all. So this big bottle lasts forever, just like all the API products. It's such great value for money. So I need just over 5 mil. That's it. Right, give this an hour. It's gonna be so clear. Boom, look at that. It is really, really clear, looking so good. So glad I added that lily. I'm just really loving it. There's not really a lot left to do now, apart from add in the fish. So we can do that. The whole filter, remember, has been running for a long time. So everything is great. There's no need to wait. So I think the best idea is to get the smaller fish in first. So we'll get the Tetra in. Then we can add in the electric blue Aquaria. These guys, again, they keep lip locking. Is it male, female, or is it just male to male aggression? I can't tell. I mean, to me, they look more like females, but this one's got a big dorsal fin, but then they've also got an egg shooty thing underneath them. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I know that this is definitely a male, isn't it? For sure. But yeah, we get the electric blue Aquaria in, and then Chunks, you can go in as well. Whoa, 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 what am I talking about? We're not ready for fish yet. I've forgotten a very important thing. All the plants that we want coming out the top, all the stuff that I took off the other ones, so the Pothos, we've got the Monstera as well. Yeah, I want to put some of those onto the wood and sort of trail it on the glass and everything like that. Maybe the ledge on the background as well. How did I forget? So the first piece is this massive one here. Just going to trail it and sort of loop it so it rests on the edge, and then it can come around here and go in the water. And then another piece this side as well can sit in. I can sort of use that first piece to hold it up a little. And then the monstera as well, which I'm hoping I can just sort of lock in here. Yes. For some reason, this leaf is just going off at an angle though. That won't straighten up, but I like those three, so I'll trim that and then more sort of grow upwards. There we go, I think that's looking really nice. I've grown so fond of having plants coming out the top because it just takes the tank to another level, literally, but also like it sort of continues the theme outside of the tank. Almost makes it look even bigger as a spectacle. Right, now we can put some fish in. We're just gonna quickly add some floating plants. This is mini water lettuce. Not only is it great for nutrient absorption, which will minimize any algae, it's also good for cover, adds a little bit of a canopy. It grows very, very quickly. It multiplies so fast. So just a few little sprigs like that. So here's our tetra going in. Look at that. How'd you like that, guys? I'm gonna be slightly stressed, so their colors are slightly muted, but oh, look at that. Look at the way they're traveling around. Love that. Should have probably wiped the tank before I did that. And then next up, electric blue acaras. There you go, guys. Nice new home. God, I love that. I love the way the red-eyed tetras, they always stay at the top and they always stay in a good little group and do circles. It's like a security thing, I guess. Oh, straight away, great colors. This one's the alpha male. The colors are muted a little bit, but obviously it's gonna be because we just moved them, but they'll settle in really quick. Right, let's get Chunks in. Okay, Chunks is ready. Here you go, buddy. Just gonna do this quickly so there's no stress. There we go, look at that. Look at him, he's such a boss. He's like, yeah, whatever. I do like this place, I'm not gonna lie. Where's my buddies? Where's my Acara buddies? Oh, they're all tucked down the back at the moment. Give them a minute and they'll be absolutely fine. Now there's absolutely tons of places for everything to hide if it wants to, create its own little territories. And that's exactly what they'll start doing straight away. The hierarchy might change, but you know, that's gonna be the same case if they swim to a new part of the river or something like that. So the good thing is all the fish that we've got here are pretty chill. There was that little bit of lip locking, but obviously, again, it's like oh, look at that, straight in the middle, that little area in the middle. Oh, that section's gonna work great. They're gonna be able to swim all the way through, you see? So I've given it depth, they can come in and out of that. It breaks lines of sight if there is any aggression. But like I say, I'm pretty confident these guys will be absolutely fine once they set up their new hierarchy. The initial lip locking is not something I saw at all in the other tank, and that's because they were so settled. And when you disturb something like that, they restart again. But you know, it's all natural, it's all good behavior. Look at Chunks in there, look. Chunks has found his home straight away. This is my zone. Everyone else, fight amongst yourselves or where you want to live. Okay, so a couple of products we now need to add. We've added the fish in. It's now time to add in the quick start, which is beneficial bacteria. It will colonize, you know, all that substrate system. The filter's already good, but because we cleaned out that whole lot from before, it's the same amount of fish in there. So there's gonna be a slight imbalance. So it's just a security measure, really. Every time I put in fish into a tank, new, old, whatever it is, always use some quick start. Always shake your bottle up. This tank will need 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, let me check. No, it needs 7, maybe 8. I'm gonna drop for luck. And then all the plants have been disturbed, you know, out of their root systems, put back in. We wanna keep them looking luscious and green. So Leaf Zone is literally the only product that I use in terms of fertilizers, obviously the root tabs as well, but I've never needed anything else. And as you've all seen, my tanks and the plant health is looking great. So yeah, get this in straight away because the water is just completely clean at the moment. And for this tank, I need 5. It's a big tank, so you know, you're gonna use a little bit more, aren't you? Little for luck. So I'm really pleased with how the tank has turned out. Not just visually, but it was more of a way of creating like a natural environment for them that still looks decent. And quite honestly, Chunks already seems a lot happier. He is quite a grumpy fellow. He never looks like he's too happy, but he's already around exploring everything. It's really good to see. The Tetra are doing their schooling action, which they always have done. Obviously, bigger fish in the tank mean that they all want to stay together, but Chunks leaves them alone. He's not too interested. He'll swim over to them every now and again like that, look, and then they'll just sort of sweep off. Absolutely fine. I mean, he does have the ability to eat some of them whole. Like this little lemon Tetra at the top here, this one coming forwards, he could easily gulp that in one bite, but he's such a gentle little baby, so he doesn't. After Timmy, he's my wife's favorite in the whole studio. Now, whenever I put new fish in, I want them to feel at home and settled. A great way of doing that is feeding. So we have got the Aquarian flake food. That's all I feed these fish. And as you can see, Chunks is just growing absolutely amazing in a very short time as well. So let's get this food in, get them settled. Now I'm pretty sure Chunks will not be interested for a while because he gets a little grumpy, but maybe he will. Maybe he recognises this is definitely my tank size. Oh, I've just touched the water. Now I don't want to touch the food. Here you go, guys. There we go. I knew the Tetra would be all over it. Let's get some in the water column as well. Yeah, usually Chunks is first to come to the foreground and he just waits right here. And as you feed him, you just put a big clump together and he goes, oh, and just grabs the whole lot. We've been doing bloodworm for him as well, every now and again as a treat. But his favourite is the flake. Oh, look, there we go. He knows it's in the water column. He's coming forwards. You gonna have some, buddy? If I can see him eating straight away. I mean, he's looking directly at me, but I can see him eating straight away. He's definitely comfortable. I mean, look how fantastic he looks in there. Next to that tiger lotus as well. Oh, that's a shot right there. Look at that, absolutely brilliant. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this one and I'll leave you with some final shots of the tank.